Young souls. Having mastered the infant and baby soul issues of survival, discipline and order, the soul is now looking to see how powerful it can become in the world. So after the juvenile years of adolescence comes a time of young adulthood. Much that can be said about young souls is what would be said about young persons and young adults before middle age. Independence and the ability to get what one wants out of life are the driving force of the young soul stage. Seizing what the physical plane has to offer, vying to gain positions of prominence, power and great wealth, causes this to become the most competitive period in the whole cycle of lifetimes. Young souls ages 1 to 4. Still coming to terms with their emotions, most early young souls express a lot of anger. They can be domineering and very cautious about strangers or the unfamiliar. At this level there is a strong attraction to gangs. This is a hangover from the infant and baby ages of tribal instinct. However, now they have a deeper insight, so they are looking to fulfill certain gaps. Usually their family ties are not strong, so they will gravitate towards others like themselves. It is for this reason that prisons are full of early young souls. They can still be dogmatic like the baby soul. However, unlike the baby soul, they prefer to be in control and exert authority. They want to control others and will do this effectively through the use of fear and dogma. By the 4th level, they begin to emerge as a typical mafia type. Driven by greed, they will become ruthless in their quest for money, which in their mindset equals power. Life is cheap to the early young soul, and they tend towards a sort of tape measure mentality that makes them monitor who among them has the hottest investments, the most lavish parties, the most important friends, the biggest house, fastest motorcycle, broadest shoulders and thinnest hips. At level 5, they almost universally withdraw. Because of the excess of base behaviours of the previous 4 levels, they are advanced enough now to realise that living like that is not the way. However, they are still not advanced enough to look introspectively or inward. They know something is not right but cannot put their finger on it. So, as a knee-jerk reaction to avoid further mountains of bad karma, they will choose a life where they live a quiet, almost hermit existence. They do this more because they want to avoid people and therefore avoid lessons on the emotional level. In fact, they don't like people at all and come across as the classic grumpy old man or the crazy bag lady. Believe it or not, the outcome of these lives is actually a huge jump forward. Now at level 6, the now later young souls are friendly and successful. They are still attracted to positions of authority, wealth and power, but have managed to temper their anger a little. Young souls at this level tend to be focused on physical prowess, so many end up in a professional sport, modelling and TV shows. Others, on the other hand, will be ambitious nobodies, always striving for recognition and fame, but rarely find it. Young souls are the architects of civilization, the builders of empires, the leaders of business and economics. Their basic motivation is materialism, and they will work tirelessly for the material achievements. They are the most likely of all the ages to be workaholics, constantly in a state of unrest, seeking their materialistic goals. More than any other soul age, young souls feel at home in the physical body. The flesh is their playground. They really like it on this planet. We actually owe them our efficiency, much of our high technology, military might, and our continual push to make things happen and change. However, with a focus on quantity rather than quality, something like GM, or genetically modified agriculture, will be valued by young souls. So, for example, bumper crops being bumper crops, the fact that this method has destroyed 95% of the huge variety of seed types that were available 125 years ago, and that it poisons the earth with nitrates, selenium, pesticides and dastardly ecological problems, would likely not even raise an eyebrow. After all, it's a bumper crop. The yuppie phenomenon is a manifestation of the young soul age. They attend financial seminars, Donald Trump courses, super salesman conventions and the like. They invest in the stock market and they seek to be professionals in their career and their life. Controlling all this power, production and advances are the 7th level young souls. They crave absolute authority. They come across as calm and are usually born to money and are gifted a plush career. Their authoritative manner is a crude attempt at the mature soul level, but unlike mature souls, they lack compassion and insight. Even so, they dabble around with esoteric and spiritual work from time to time, but more from an academic level. They now know inherently right from wrong, but the young soul can convince themselves that they are doing nothing wrong. So they will choose to work for the light or the dark from their limited view of spiritual matters. So, for example, the elites of the world, or the New World Order types, are in this level, and they like to perform rituals and dark magic full of child sacrifice and abuse. They study the dark aspects of the occult, and always with the view of empowering themselves further. They feel no pangs of guilt for their horrific acts because they have convinced themselves that they are special and the people that they hurt are below them, so it doesn't matter. On the other hand, we have the New Age movement, and with their message of love and light and peace on earth and warm and fuzzy stuff for everyone. And what's wrong with that, you may ask? Well, nothing, except that at the 7th level young soul, they tend to commercialize it. They package it up, post it, and make a ton of money to boot, which is typical young soul attributes. Remember the bumper crops analogy. This is the same mentality. Mass produce spiritual wisdom and sell it to the masses. That is why a lot of them come across as hokey or airheads and eccentric tree huggers. That is also why most New Agers spend years reading every book, going to every workshop and getting every degree so they can put letters on their business cards. But they rarely put that knowledge into practice. On an intellectual level, they do understand spiritual lessons, but on a soul level, they lack the ability to put those lessons into real-world practice. So instead, they invent what is supposed to be spiritual normal, and everyone else goes along with it because typical young souls want to fit in and be normal. The reality is, most New Age gurus and New World Order elites are in the same level. 7th level young souls. So, contrary to popular belief, they are not super gods, as in the New World Order, and they are not old souls in their last life, as in the New Ages. They are preparing to start a whole new level of understanding in the mature soul level. Know that this reality is going to hurt a lot of feelings, and most will not accept that they are young souls, but I'm only trying to help them to understand this so they can jump to the next level. There are more young souls on this planet than any other soul age. Between 60 and 65% of the population of the Earth are young souls. The planetary average is 5th level young soul. Therefore, they are the most ordinary and conventional. They form the establishment. In fact, young souls have somewhat of a hang-up about normalcy. They want very much to be considered normal, and they want everybody else to be what they consider to be normal. The most powerful places in the world are like Japan, Hong Kong, Germany, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Australia, Canada and the United States all express a strong young soul propensity. Everybody growing up in these places, regardless of soul age, will receive young soul imprinting or conditioning about how to act, think, look and feel in order to be a success. If they don't conquer you in their business or economic world, young souls will conquer you in the military. For example, young soul American leadership wants to make the world safe for its ideology, which is democracy. They call it the struggle to maintain freedom and liberty, but what young souls really mean by this is they don't want others telling them what to do, and basically they want you do it my way instead. Since they want this liberty for themselves, they champion it for others. On the other hand, young souls in Russian leadership want to bring the whole world around to its socialistic point of view, professing for their own good. Really, but these supposedly noble ideologies are just excesses, excuses for do it my way, taken to the extreme. While young souls are productive, industrious and goal-orientated, their vision extends only so far, and they are not likely to question their motives or ethics. Relationships. Although more advanced than baby and infant souls, young souls still have fairly simple perceptions about life. In fact, they are not emotionally opened at all, so they rarely get introspective enough about themselves to question their motivations. Since they value material success so much, they usually ignore emotional, psychological and spiritual considerations within and without themselves. Desire here is to win other people over to one's own point of view or make them over in their own image. The young soul perceives me and you and wants to change you into me. The young soul wants to organize people into a society, a civilization or a company. They believe every person should know his place in the rank and file of the culture. They believe in this sort of thing so much that they are willing to fight for it, to convince others to do it their way. Wars are mostly a young soul phenomenon. Nationalism and imperialism are rampant at this stage of maturation. Sexuality and love. They tend not to be very good with romantic relationships. They find it difficult to commit to long-term relationships and will often cheat on their partners because they are always looking for something better or a bigger challenge. They tend to make poor parents as well because they don't make strong emotional connections with their children. However, they will buy their children everything they can afford. Like the prototype yuppie, children become status objects for their parents. These children with expensive toys and haircuts, cars and education will be pushed to excel themselves, and they do it from nursery school right through to college to marriage and career. Those successes will reflect favourably back on their status-seeking parents. Children are not pushed to express their feelings as well. Spiritual outlook and religion. Young souls tend to be conventional but less adamant than baby souls in their religious beliefs. At church, you're more likely to find them networking and promoting their business than pushing dogma or being critical about some other member's behaviour or lack of attendance. How they relate to other soul ages. Young souls do not appreciate infant and old souls especially, because these are at the extremes. This is just another do it my way manifestation. Young soul humour is to make fun of people who are different. There is some repressed hostility in this and lack of understanding. They tend to adhere to all social institutions and cultural norms such as marriage, religion, law, politics, education and family. And young souls find it distressing when infant souls or old souls do not follow society's rules. Their motto is, "Do it my way." Outlook on life. Because young souls are heavily identified with their bodies, they do not age gracefully. After spending their youth in pursuit of things, when they reach middle age, they try to hang on to their youthful appearance with health regimes and diets and exercise and vitamins and spas. It is important to them to remain youngish. This is why we have plastic surgery for noses and breasts, and tummy tucks, fake tans, and a booming multi-billion-dollar industry devoted to beauty products for both men and women. Creativity begins to open up during this phase, although it comes to a fuller fruition in the mature phase, as we'll see next. But many people rise to fame and prominence during this period. So we find a lot of movie stars, TV anchors, singers, comedians, politicians, executives, religious leaders, Nobel Prize winners, Hollywood producers, authors, and even people like Paris Hilton who are famous just for being rich. Coming up next, we'll examine the mature soul, and I've got a feeling that most of you that are still listening to this presentation are going to be in this group. So hang around and find out.